Hi guys, today I'm here to do a book tag. This is the Fairytales in Real Life book tag, and this video is being sponsored by Harlequin Teen, so thank you very much for sponsoring this video. This book tag was actually inspired by the new book Something in Between by Melissa de la Cruz. This book is actually in stores now. It is a contemporary. If you've never heard of this story, it's actually about a girl named Jasmine, and she is an excellent student. She makes her Filipino parents very, very proud, and she just recently received like a full ride scholarship to college, and she lets her parents know only to just have her world like crash around her because she finds out that their visas have actually expired years ago. So they have actually been living in America illegally, and that means no college, maybe. That means definitely no scholarship. They could even be deported. It sounds like a really good story. It sounds like Jasmine will stop at nothing to protect her relationships and her family and her future. And it definitely sounds like a really good story. You guys should definitely check it out if it sounds like something you would like. You may have heard of Melissa de la Cruz before. She's actually known for the fairy tale fantasy series Disney Descendants. And concepts like happy endings and the big bad wolf are actually just as prominent in contemporary stories as they are in fairy tale stories. So this book tag is actually all about how those fairy tale fantasy tropes play out in contemporary stories. And so I had a lot of fun doing this book tag. There's 10 different questions or like fairy tale tropes that I then had to pair up with a contemporary read, and I just had a lot of fun going through my bookshelves and picking out these contemporaries. So with that being said, let's jump to the book tag. Number 1, the fairy godmother, a contemporary trope where a motherly, fatherly figure guides a misguided protagonist. For this, I have chosen The Secret Hum of a Daisy by Tracy Holzer, and this is actually a middle grade contemporary, but this is a really good story about a girl who, in this story, I would say like her fairy godmother is actually her grandmother, and unfortunately after her mother dies, she is very lost and doesn't know what to do. She's young, and her grandmother kind of guides her through just kind of, I don't want to say moving on, but like her recovering, and together they're both grieving and they kind of work through that together. And without her grandmother, she would have been pretty lost. Number 2, Prince Charming, a contemporary character who takes on a heroic act or quest for his or her love interest. For this, I have chosen The Rosie Project by Graham Simison, and in this story, Don ends up helping Rosie to find her biological father. He kind of goes on this quest with her. He is a DNA expert, so it kind of works out, and he helps her to track him down. And through this, they kind of develop a relationship, which I really enjoyed. I loved this book. Number 3 is Forbidden Fruit, the contemporary trope of giving into temptation. For this, I have chosen Attachment by Rainbow Rowell. So in this story, Lincoln reads emails daily as part of his job. He's supposed to report people when, I believe it's been a little while since I've read this, but I believe when they're not using the emails like for work related things. I think if they're kind of using, I think that there's like keywords that will flag an email and then it's sent to him. He's supposed to turn them in, but he actually ends up reading about Beth and Jennifer. And he reads these emails. I mean, it's part of his job. He's not being creepy. It's part of his job, and they keep on getting flagged, and he keeps reading these emails, but he should have turned them in right away, but he kind of gives into temptation, and he really kind of gets invested in their lives. I mean, he doesn't want to turn them in because then he wouldn't be able to read about them anymore. And this is actually a romance, so it sounds like an odd premise, but I promise you it's not creepy. It's actually really sweet and really well written, and I just really enjoyed this book. I thought it was so cute. Number 4, When the Clock Strikes Midnight, a contemporary trope where the characters fear an impending moment. For this, I have actually chosen Safe Haven by Nicholas Sparks, and I hate getting the movie covers. I don't remember, I think I got this at like a garage sale or something because I didn't own the physical copy. I hate it though. I hate it. I wish I had the original. I'm gonna be very careful here. I don't want to spoil anything. Basically, the main character is very, very seriously fearing somebody finding her. She moves to a new town and she tries to start a new life. She makes new relationships and friendships, but she is living in fear constantly of somebody tracking her down. Number 5, the big bad wolf. An antagonist so powerful that the hero feels helpless against him or her or it. I have chosen Nora and Kettle by Lauren Nicole Taylor. And this is actually like a sort of Peter Pan retelling, but both of the main characters in this story, Nora and Kettle, are really facing really a powerful antagonist. So Nora is facing her extremely abusive father, physically very abusive to her all the time, and she also is pretty emotionally abused, and her little sister is currently also in the house, so she's very fearful all the time for her safety, and she's dealing with a lot. She feels pretty helpless because she could just run away, but then she couldn't leave her little sister with him, so she's really helpless. And then Kettle, he is very poor. He was homeless for a while, and he has now found this sort of like underground area where him and these other like homeless kids can live. And so, I mean, they're not technically homeless anymore, but you know, they're very poor, so sometimes money is very tight, and sometimes they can't really eat, and sometimes they get sick and they can't afford like medical help. Not to mention, Kettle is actually a Japanese American, and at this time period, that's not great for him. He used to be in some pretty bad homes, and as well as like his brother, and it's just very helpless situations in a lot of sense where there's nothing they can do. But yet they try so hard. They try to go up and above and beyond that. And this was just a really, really good story. Number 6 is The Power Within, a contemporary example of unexpected power from a character who imagines themselves to be ordinary. So for this one, I have actually chosen A Walk to Remember by Nicholas Sparks. And I chose this because one of the main characters, Landon, actually starts out the book being pretty ordinary. He really does not have much direction or purpose in his life. He's getting in trouble and he's kind of hanging out with the wrong crowd. But by the end of the story, he meets Jamie, and it just literally changes his entire life. By the end of the story, he is so driven. He has so much purpose. He does extraordinary things for her, because she kind of has this bucket list, and he helps her to like be in 2 places at once and different things like that he, I'm sure in the beginning of the story, would have never thought he would have done. But he like finds it in himself to try hard to actually be something, and he doesn't just, he actually has like a plan for after high school. It even has to do with somewhat like his direction in life, as far as a little bit even like religiously, like he's kind of moving towards a direction now. And the story is so good. Number 7, The Grand Ball, a contemporary trope where a character faces a major moment in fitting in. I do not have a physical copy of this book, but I had chosen More Happy Than Not by Adam Silvera. And this story, I'm again gonna try to be careful with spoilers and things, but the main character is dealing with some feelings of fitting in, and with what is okay, what is not okay, with his friendships and people around him, feelings for other people. He develops feelings for another male, and in where he lives, his friends would not think that is okay. And he, again, is like, it's that thing of like fitting in. And in this story, actually, there is a way that people can fit in, because they like pretty much get rid of memories, like they repress things in your brain to where if you feel a little different, like you can kind of fit in. Like in a sense, I guess, like there's some people that say lost a child and they are no longer functioning, like they are just too depressed to fit in and be a normal human being. So they have then repressed those memories of even having that child. So now that person is back to being normal and happy and fitting in. And it's a really intense book. It really dives into a whole lot of stuff. I want to talk about it, but I'm trying not to just spoil the entire book. And it's just deals with such good topics. I highly recommend More Happy Than Not. So good, but it definitely has a lot to do with, I would say, fitting in. Number 8, Fairest of Them All. A contemporary pressure for outer beauty that challenges the importance for inner beauty. So for this, I end up choosing Wonder, and I own this book, but I cannot find it anywhere. I do not know what happened to it. I got pretty upset the other day because I don't know when the last time that's happened where I know that I own this book and I cannot find it in my house. I don't have any memory of like lending it out to someone. I don't know. August has a facial deformity, and in this story it just centers completely around the fact that how people treat him so differently because of his facial deformity. And he's just a young kid, but I mean even adults will treat him differently. And this is a super emotional book. It has such an awesome message, but he's just a normal kid. He's just like any other kid, and yet people treat him so differently just for how he looks. And it does, I think it has a lot to do with that inner outer beauty, and really just everything to do with that. It was such a good book. If you have not read this book, I highly recommend that you do. Number 9, The Evil Stepmother, a contemporary character who invokes anger or resentment for stepping into another's role. For this, I have actually chosen To All the Boys I've Loved Before by Jenny Han. And in this story, it's about 3 different daughters. They live with their father, and the mother has died. And so the main character is Lara Jean, and she's like the middle girl. And her older sister has kind of stepped into that motherly role, which I believe kind of makes them sort of resent her at times. And she's no longer sort of like their sister. I think the whole like dynamics of that have changed. And then once she leaves for college, Lara Jean, who's the middle child, like the second oldest, she is kind of like thrust into that spot sort of, and it's just kind of changes everything. And I think it really changes with like the youngest daughter, Kitty. I think she also kind of sort of resents that too. Like, you're not my mom, like that kind of situation. Number 10, Happily Ever After. The contemporary belief in finding happiness at the end, even when the road to get there had its struggles. For this, I have chosen I'll Give You the Sun by Jandy Nelson. It goes back and forth from one of the twins' perspective, and one twin tells kind of the earlier story, and then the other twin is more kind of like today, and like what's happening present day sort of. This family they go through so much, and with the mother dying, in the beginning of this book, the twins, it's a brother and sister, are so close, and they at one point you start reading and they're not even really talking to one another. They have a very strained relationship with the father. One of them is going through a lot of issues with like sexuality and kind of like finding himself, and kind of working through that. Their futures with like colleges and like art schools, and their future like in that direction. But through it all, they end up still having kind of their own happily ever after. And it's not like the perfect, I guess, Disney like Cinderella happily ever after or something. But for this story, they still end up having their own happily ever after everything. So that's why I chose this book. That was the tag. I'm going to tag 3 different people. I'm going to tag Bookables, I'm going to tag TheEighthPotter, and I'm going to tag Ermahgerd Berks. You guys should do this tag. I also tag you if you want to do this tag. Let me know in the comments and I will watch your video. Don't forget, if you guys thought that something in between sounded interesting to you, to check it out because it is in stores now. I'll have some more information in the description that you guys can check out about this book. But I think that's it. Thank you again, Harlequin Teen, for sponsoring this video. Thank you guys for watching it, and I will see you guys very soon with another book tag. Bye, guys.